What's up? Welcome to the Max Revenue YouTube channel. Our goal is simple here. It's to help you become a better insurance producer. My name is Micah. I'm going to be your host. In today's video, I want to share with you a four-step checklist, I guess you could call it, to help you decide whether or not you should quote a company's business insurance or walk away. Now, for everyone who's followed our content, you know that we're big fans of getting an agent of record letter, right, to get hired up front. But sometimes you're going to come into situations where a prospect just can't wrap their head around signing an agent of record letter. And so then you're going to come to this point where you have to decide, what should I do? Now, some of the negatives of just going and quoting every deal out there, obviously, are you're going to waste a ton of your time, you're going to burn out your staff, and you're just going to become defeated. I think the statistics, like if you quote insurance, especially non-strategically, you'll probably win maybe 15% of the accounts. However, I know producers and agents who do quote strategically. I'm not even talking AOR here, and they win for 50 to 70% of deals they quote, or even higher. And so that just speaks to the importance of pre-qualifying. So there's, like I said, a four-step checklist that I've really come up with over the years that I think helps filter out the tire kickers and helps make sure that you stay on the right path and only pursue quoting opportunities where it truly makes sense. So I'm going to get into all four and then kind of just talk through each one. The first thing is the prospect willing to give you copies of their insurance policies? The reason I like this as one of the filters is for a few reasons. One is it gives you a ton of information, right? There is, if you are going to go down the quoting path, right, you can just extract lists and forms, endorsements, and all the named insureds and all that data for your team. Can basically create an Excel spreadsheet for you, and you have a lot of the information just to get started on quoting. And now all you need to do is get a couple of apps, right, and some updated lists. So it makes that way better, but also it gives you something to sell on, right? Because now you can actually look for exclusions and issues with their policy that they might not be aware of, which if you don't want to be selling on purely on premium, which no one does, or on cost, this can help you sell a policy that's maybe higher priced because they have an exclusion, of course, that your policy doesn't have. I want to backtrack real quick before I get into the second thing, and that is if you follow our framework at the Max Revenue show or our course that we have, we talk about doing due diligence first. And so really getting your policies should be done during the due diligence phase. So if I do the due diligence, I don't get full policies or whatever, but I still try to do it and come back and present something, I'm probably not going to proceed if they haven't provided me the policies in the due diligence phase. This just tells me that the buyer is probably really just looking for someone to vet out, right? Vet out their agent, hold them accountable, keep them honest, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so that's the first thing is policies. Second thing is premium. Premium should be included in those policies. If it's whited out or for whatever reason withheld from you, you need to talk with the prospect and explain to them why you need the premium. I want to do that with you real quick. I have other videos explaining this, but real briefly, you got to talk with the buyer and tell them it ultimately helps them get the best deal for a few reasons. One is underwriters don't want to waste their time. This is probably the biggest reason. Underwriters don't want to waste their time, and they only want to work on viable opportunities. So if they see a submission come in from an agent who's not even the incumbent agent, and there's no premium, that's two strikes immediately against this other agent, right? So now as a client, you're burning a market up, you're wasting a market, you're costing yourself opportunities and interest from underwriters. That's the biggest thing. So you got to also keep in mind, if you're talking to a prospect, that you're explaining to them that I'm not asking for the new premium from your current agent, right? If they come back and quote, I'm asking for the expiring premium. This could change. I don't know what it could do. And so that's all I'm asking for. And also, your current agent that's going out to the market, they have that expiring premium already. So to level the playing field, you should actually provide the premium to all agents. So that's just a couple of talk tracks of how to talk through with a buyer. There's some real good analogies around real estate I use. I'm not going to get into that on this video, but go check out our channel. We have other videos up about how to address buyers who want to white out the premium. But so the biggest thing is if you don't have premium, negotiate and get underwriters excited to want to work on a deal, right? And so don't waste your time. I'm all about saving people time, and myself included. I only want to work on opportunities that I think we can win. So if I get the policies and there's no premium, I'm shooting in the dark, and it's just not really something that I want to spend my time doing. Now, a couple workarounds, maybe you could ask, hey, I get you don't want to share your premium. Can you give me some target number? I don't advise doing that. At the end of the day, if the client's not willing to give you the premium, you got to make that decision. I personally usually walk, um, and that's what I do. So that's box number two. Box number three, this is really important, is permission. This pertains to a few things. Permission, one, if you're going to go quote, right? Hey, if I quote this, I want to come back and make sure that everyone that's involved in making the final decision is going to be in that room. Can I get in front of that? A lot of times you'll be working with like an office manager. And so this allows you to talk with her or him and say, hey, I just want to make sure, yes, I can quote this, but what I'll need is permission to talk with the decision maker, with the owner, Bob, at the final presentation. That's all I ask for. Yeah, I can do that for you once you get the final numbers. Okay, great. If they're not willing to do that, it just lowers your odds of winning. You can do that. I mean, I've won accounts where I don't present to the final decision maker. I present to the office manager who has a lot of power, and I win accounts that way. But it's not what I would advise. Okay. The other permission that you really need to get is permission to go to the markets that you want to go to. So I talked to you earlier in this video about doing the due diligence first. Um, Part of the due diligence process is doing market research. Okay, you see there with carrier A, but from that research that carrier B, C, and D have never seen the account, or if they have, it's been a few years, and that that's where you need to go to win. And so you need to get permission from the prospect at this point to say, hey, okay, yeah, I want to see I want, I will quote, but here's the markets I want to go to. If I can get these three, sure, I will go move forward. And just be very transparent. I also would say, if you're talking to a prospect, a lot of other agents will go sneakily try to get quotes or try to go to market, but that will just leave your current agent frustrated, which we've talked about. So here's the markets I need for it to make sense. And if you don't want to provide these to me, I totally get it. I just won't move forward. This will save you a ton of time. Why would you go quote an opportunity? We're going to have the fifth best market, right? Or not even access to the markets you want, or they're going to give them to their agent. So just get that permission. This is such a key one. And the fourth step or checklist box that I would look at is pain. Again, you had already did a first meeting, and then you already did due diligence, and then you're making your decision to quote, right? So in the first meeting, did they bring up any pain, right? This is a lot of times in the first meeting why I like to ask the question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with your agent and your overall experience? And if they say I'm a 9 or a 10, then you got to, okay, great. Well, why am I here? Is it just because you want to get another option just to make sure that you're not overpaying? Yeah, that's really it. But there's zero pain. Now, if that's the case, you can still proceed to due diligence and say, okay, well, let me do some due diligence. I'll make sure that you're not overpriced or whatever. And then if they give you the policies there, and then through your market research meeting and your uncovering of the policies, there's still no pain that comes up, whether coverage pain or pain from service, then there's no pain, right? So if at the end of that presentation they're asking, yeah, can you go get quotes? Now well, doesn't make a whole lot of sense because there's really no pain, right? The only pain is the premium, but you already had the premiums. You already did your market research. You kind of know what good rates and bad rates are. And so what's the point of even taking the final step and the most time intensive part of the step, which is actually getting quoting and involving underwriters and people on your staff? That just doesn't make any sense at all. This is why I'm such a big fan of doing due diligence first, because I think it's a guide of what the best path forward is. And a lot of times you don't even have to, this whole 4P checklist thing of quoting or not quoting, it answers itself, right? It tells you through the process of doing due diligence and having a good first meeting what to do, and you'll know. But it just, so if these 4Ps are checked, right, and you've done your due diligence and then these 4Ps are checked, policies, premium, permission, and pain, go forward and don't feel guilty about it, right? I've won several deals. My numbers have gone way up in production over the last 3 years than they were for the previous 7, 8 years. once I started not being so dogmatic about BORing only and actually going to the market and getting quotes when it makes sense strategically. One last thing I'll say is it doesn't ruin your credibility at all if at the first meeting you say that using one agent makes the most sense and then you end up quoting. The reason it doesn't ruin your credibility is because you're just basically saying, yeah, this makes the most sense. Doesn't mean there's not alternative ways to do things, right? And if you can't come to my level, or this isn't how you can't get there, right? You need to see something more tangible. Then sure, we can work with you, but then we got to do it strategically. What I'm never advocating for is just quoting blindly and just being, someone emailing you their policies and going to the market and getting quotes. That's a waste of everyone's time, and that ultimately hurts the prospect and it hurts you and your staff. So I appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed this channel, do us a huge favor. Thumbs up, subscribe. That really helps us out, get the word out there. And leave a comment below. What is something that is a hang up for you when it comes to deciding whether to quote or not? Take care.